G'day guys, CW here tuning in from the land down under. Welcome to another weekly developer update. As usual, we've had quite a lot happening on the developer front. And once again, we've got Armeanio joining us. So welcome, mate.
It's a pleasure to be here.
No problem. How's things on your side of the world?
So far, so good. Busy week for us.
Yeah,
but that's not unusual. But some big events.
For sure. I think having the website launch, that's one of the biggest things we've had in a long time. It looks really good, in my opinion.
That's been in motion since last year. We've been trying to go through it, make sure that it's user-friendly, it's laid out in a way that offers information and resources in a way that's easy to find and digestible. I think it's a huge upgrade in terms of the just general user experience. So really proud of the team. Marcelo in Brazil, Glasgow in Scotland, really did grade A work.
Definitely have to agree with that 100%. Looks really good.
I would recommend everybody out there that hasn't checked it out already, hop onto www.ergoplatform.org and take a look.
By all means. Righto, let's kick things off.
Sure.
So greenhat, do you want to lead off with that one?
Sure. greenhat and the Sigma Rust crew have been working on Ergo Tree. They're still working on the NIPoPoW framework. It's compression technique that's going to use proofs and essentially minimize software resources that are required. That's a big lift. They actually have a pretty intense roadmap long term, but it looks like we have a new dev on board. What is the name there? Jozinek? Yeah, it's close enough. Anyway, if he's watching, welcome to the team. That's awesome. Always happy to see new developers come in and play with Ergo Tree and Sigma Rust. Looks like he's also working on the Oracle Pool framework. I know that's been coming together in pieces, and we are getting closer to taking those pieces, assemble them, and make it into a usable product. I do know at the last Ergo Hack event, we had a community group called Delphi that kind of was creating the foundation for user-based Oracle. So I'm really excited to see V2 roll out, and hopefully Delphi and community members can plug into that and start spinning up pools.
Yeah, so they'll start actually providing data for people to be able to utilize.
Yeah, it's going to be more efficient than our first iteration.
Yeah.
That was kind of a proof of concept. It worked. The economics behind it weren't exactly that great, and the payout system was a little bit inefficient. Let's call it dusty, where rewards came. It's kind of like if you had one GPU and were mining to a huge pool, and it just small rewards. So the new framework is a lot more efficient, and the incentives are better, but it builds on the same security model.
Yeah, I think I've got a wallet there. There's about up to 17,000 transactions or so from the SigUSD, from the USD ETH pool. So it's very dusty.
It's very dusty, and that then puts a big load on wallets, and it just painful.
Yeah. Righto. So next up, we've got some Sigma updates. Just a little bit of cleaning up by the looks of things. Arrays by the hash code have been removed, but then also the AOC costing code. And I think that's transitioning to 5.0. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. It looks like there's still some cleanup happening.
Yeah.
That will, the EIP-27, which I see Kushti's on there, so I guess I'll skip Glasgow for now. Come back to it. EIP-27 basically was released on mainnet today with documentation. So our goal is to get in touch with all of the mining pools. That's already happening on the back end, just to say, hey, this is our proposed update. Do you support it? Do you not? The most important thing, in my opinion, is going to be transparency, where we let our miners know, if you support this, this is where to mine. If you do not, this is where to mine. And there's also, you know, a subsegment of solo miners out there that, you know, may have their own, some of them have pretty decent sized mining setups that also will need to update their header if they want to support EIP-27. That's something that we had let's call it an initial vote, right?
Yeah.
That did pass, and it did pass within the required threshold, which was pretty high, 90%. Yeah. And ever since, Alex has been kind of grinding away. The bigger part of his development actually wasn't the re-emission aspect. It was building in new ways for miners to actually vote and confirm the update. So, you know, I really have to give him a lot of props for, you know, probably spending the better part of 2 months making sure that miners had a vote. That's something that for him has always been important. He's always wanted Ergo to be a miner-based network. And, you know, he stays true to that, puts in his own work.
Yeah, most definitely. So if anyone wants to check that out, there is a forum post that Kushti's provided all those details on. So by all means, jump on there. It provides all the setting details. If you are a pool or a solo miner, it's, by all means, check it out. So I think he's actually provided us a block height as well for initiation, provided all the voting goes ahead. I think it was a 777217, the block height, which equates to about late June, providing everything goes well.
Yeah, and so, you know, our side, like let's say community and marketing, what we need to do is we need to just make sure it's transparent. Everyone knows where every pool's at.
Yeah.
You know, I think that the discussion in terms of the pros and cons has probably already happened before the indicative vote, but you know, those people that perhaps are mining ETH and are looking for, you know, a new chain to hop onto, you know, I definitely recommend they would catch up with the discussion we've been having.
Yeah, most definitely. And just a friendly reminder as well, it is there to incentivize the crypto economic security of the protocol long term.
Looks like he also released a new reference client. I believe this was a pretty fat one. I think he said there was 9 updates in this, which, you know, I think, to be honest, he's been busy with EIP-27 for a while. And so there are quite a few pull requests that he's going to be going through. I think he's already started. And I think he's going to shoot for about 3 or 4 on each update. So we have actually material for, you know, probably take us up to 4.0, 0.3 or 0.31. And that, you know, that's just catching up with the actual development in the ecosystem. But, you know, I'm sure he's happy to kind of be free from that and get back into what he really likes, which is, you know, node development and also looking through people's code.
Yeah. I see there's a lot of sort of PRs there that people are requesting to be reviewed. So, yeah, he can get back into that side of things as well. It pushes everyone forward then.
Yep.
So up to Glasgow, we skipped over him. He's been working tirelessly on the website, and I think it looks amazing, as we touched on in the intro. Marcelo himself as well. Yeah, great job. Hats off to those guys and everyone else involved. Then he's shifting his focus now to the ErgoDocs. That's another big resource for the community. He's compiled a lot of information there. He's gathered it from all kinds of sort of websites, forums, chat rooms, etc. And then also setting up Discord for the upcoming Ergo hack, which kicks off in a couple of days on the 9th of May.
Yep, Alex and I are going to be releasing a video talking about, you know, the state of DeFi. It's a big question. It really is a big question in terms of, like, sometimes in crypto we get these crazy, let's just call them schemes, that you know, okay, they kind of are interesting to watch. Let's call them experiments. Yep. That's kind of a graceful thing to call them, but let's call them economic experiments that are, in my opinion, a little insane. So if we're going to really create stability and a unstoppable digital economy, we need to build that on solid frameworks and on economic principles that make sense.
Yeah.
And, I think that is kind of missing in DeFi, but that's my opinion.
Yeah. It's a bit of a casino, isn't it, at the moment? It's money just sort of flipping from one sort of protocol to the other and trying to get the highest APY, and everyone's trying to outdo each other. So yeah, be great to have some sort of foundation to build upon, solid foundations.
No, I think ultimately long term, that's going to be what creates a lot of value in terms of actual decentralized finance instead of like gamified, decentralized financial
roulette.
Yeah, I don't know what to call it. It's just a crazy space.
Yeah, not wrong about that, mate. So let's move on. A non-BR, and this is a big one for the community as well, is Ledger. So finally fixed up a signing issue, and now able to be able to sign transactions with the Ledger device itself. So that's a big one moving forward.
We're actually going to be starting a beta test. I know that Nemo from Nautilus has already integrated it into the wallet.
Oh, great.
I believe Monday, like 2 days ago, we had functionality enough to sign, but we're going to do a private beta test in the community in order to just make sure that sometimes users do amazing things where they just don't work, let's say, in alignment with the logic of developers. I guess it's like a video game thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like somebody's running against the wall and then they just like fall into nothingness, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure the video game designers are like, well, who's going to run up against the wall? Like
Exactly.
that doesn't,
no one's that silly.
Yeah, no one's going to do that. And then it happens. So it's good to get the community in there to beat things up.
Most definitely.
I know that there will be documentation in terms of how to sideload the software onto the ledger, and that's currently in motion. Hopefully, longer term, we're going to get that actually pulled into Ledger to where it's a little bit easier, but at first it will take some user, let's just say, work. But I'm sure with documentation and hopefully some additional YouTube videos, tutorials, community support, the lift on that should be pretty minimal.
Yeah, I dare say so as well. Everyone will jump on board and everyone wants it, so it won't take too long, I dare say.
Yeah.
So he's also reached out to Haileypdll, who's a SAFEW wallet developer, and Minotaur, which is MHS Sam, just providing some documentation for those guys. So more than happy for them to reach out to him. And like he's just touched on as well, Captain Nemo's updating the Ledger branch.
So I think we're going to have two betas. One is going to be paideia public key, which is just kind of your normal transaction. And then we'll have a second one that's specifically around paideia script, which will allow users to interact with smart contracts from their Ledger device.
Yeah, so signing a transaction from a DApp, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So moving on, MHS Sam's working away on bridges again. So he's got the TX signings in development. So what's the ECDSA? So what's that? And then also the EDDSA.
Oh, basically you have different chains that use different, let's call them signatures, right? They use different cryptographic signatures, different standards. So Rosen Bridge is designed to be pretty flexible across chain, which means that you need to sign transactions in multiple ecosystems, and multiple ecosystems, will use different cryptography. We use Blake 2B, but that's not necessarily standard. Bitcoin uses different. So I think he's just building out the flexibility of Rosen.
Just to be able to sign anything.
Yeah, because you need the Guardian wallet on both chains.
Yeah. And then also, just touching on that a little bit further, the progress on the watches and the guard services is progressing.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be one of those things that it comes together in pieces, and then there's an assembly process, and then there's a testing process. And, if everything is perfect, which, life is life, a lot of the times there's the deassembly and patching and then reassembly and optimization and,
all things considered, and then someone runs through the wall.
Yeah. So, it's something that it's coming together, and it's really nice to see the progress there.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that opens up the ecosystem. People are thriving for sort of more stables, but then also bridging out the Ergo tokens, etc., to the whole world.
Yep.
Then he's also working on the profit sharing DApp. We touched on this a little bit last week as well. He's made an EIP, updating the GitHub repo, and then working on videos in the websites. So to be able to give a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the more interesting dApps in the ecosystem, just because, it's a composable tool that so many things can be built into.
Yeah. But then also, finally, he's just reviewing a token swap protocol, which MrStahlfelge has created. Is that on Token J, I believe?
Yeah, Token J. It looks like MrStahlfelge has taken the mobile wallets that he's built, and he has created a signing mechanism that works directly with smart contracts. Now, the benefit to that on the user side is actually fees. If you go to SigmaUSD.io, the standard website, at least for minting stablecoins or redeeming SIG reserve, you're going to pay a higher fee than if you use what he's built. So those of you out there that are looking to, let's say scalp trade or simply exit with a little bit more erg in your pocket, that's a cheaper alternative. And it's also got a pretty nice user experience on mobile.
Yeah, it's nice and clean little layout, isn't it? Yep. And it's just directly interacting with the contracts themselves.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat little build he's put together.
Yeah. So moving on, off to Morphic. He's working on 5.0 again. I think that's chewing up a lot of his time, isn't it?
Well, that's a major upgrade, and we're going to see some nice, let's say, increased throughput. The contract engine is going to get a little speed up. It's a pretty big optimization, and so it's something that he's been working on. I know that Alex has been more focused on EIP-27, so that's kind of had his attention a little bit diverted away from 5.0. But as I stated earlier, the goal is, the EIP-27 reemission vote occurs, and then the next thing that's going to be proposed to miners is going to be 5.0. Yeah.
So that's changing the costings as well, to just-in-time costing.
Yep.
So he's got quite a lot going on this one. So Sigma 5.0, reviewing some PRs for the app kit, and then just communicating with, is it jozinek? Something along those lines, more or so on the Sigma side. And then talking with MrStahlfelge on wallet plugins. So I think he's kind of breaking that down into sort of little modules. Is that correct?
Yep, that's the game plan.
Yep. So what else have we got? Luivatra. He's working with ErgoPad. He's improved the vesting contracts, so they're a lot more customizable. Then working on the bots as well, so making those a lot more user-friendly for everyone to be able to run themselves, I guess, is the end goal. And paideia staking contracts will start with a temporary version and then to be replaced with a more complete version later. So that includes voting for the setup and then profit sharing as well.
Yeah.
They've got quite a lot going on over there, I dare say.
I really like what Luivatra is doing because it's foundational. The first staking mechanism on Ergo, and now creating additional flexibility. That's huge.
Yeah, definitely. and then offering it all to the community as well.
Yeah, open source. I mean, that's something that devs will pick up and carry for a while. The composability of that has a lot of implications and can be customized, plugged into people's projects. So I have to really commend what they're doing over there at ErgoPad.
Yeah, most
it's a lot of value short term, but also the secondary value to the community is huge.
Yes, definitely. 100% agree with that one. Then on to MrStahlfelge. You can take this one.
Sure. Looks like he's drafting a plugin system. Basically, the goal is to create interactions with dApps that are going to be more composable, easier wallet integration. I think that that's going to be a big thing for dApp developers because a lot of the times I talk about lowering the barrier of entry, right?
Yeah.
And so if you have existing plugins and tools that you as a dApp developer can plug in from the wallet side, basically the UI on your wallet and the user experience probably on the mobile device, being that it's MrStahlfelge, are going to start being, let's just call it similar cross dApps, right?
Yep.
And so then you get kind of user familiarity, then people get comfortable, and the stress of interacting with blockchain goes down quite a bit. That's huge. That's really a big thing,
especially when you're implementing things which interact with your wallet as well. So you don't want to take that stress right out of it.
Exactly. And not only does it assist the users because they get this, kind of, let's just call it even user experience versus, the copy your wallet, paste your wallet, read through all of these little letters and numbers and hope to God that you don't accidentally send your funds into space. That's kind of stressful versus having tools that the dApp developers can plug them in without too much stress on their side. The users get a common experience. That's a big thing.
Yeah. It's one thing I still get nervous about at times as well is when you start transferring to and from exchanges and things like that. Always like double check, triple check, quadruple check.
Unfortunately, the UI in that situation and the user experience, it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
That's a stress to be like, well, I hope this goes where it's going to go. Maybe I should send it once and then send it again. And, it's
and then definitely you start stressing about waiting for the confirmations and things. And hopefully, like you said, hopefully it hasn't gone into the abyss.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that everybody, I think, that has been around in the space for a while has felt. Moving on to another wallet,
Haileypdll, PDLL. Not much for happening on the safe wallet side, but then just also confirming that the little tweak that a non-BR gave them last week should be able to get the ledger operating without having to wait for Chrome 102. Sorry.
Yep.
So Captain Nemo on Nautilus. So updating the ledger Ergo JS. So is that a new repo for that one?
That is the repo that our partners at Tesseract built.
Oh, okay. No dramas. Also adding changes to improve the user experience with the new signing API flow, then producing a tutorial on the side, like we just touched on earlier, the side load for the Ledger app. So what's the process on that sort of thing? Is that actually putting the Ledger app on the device itself?
Yeah, you need to take the software bundle that's been put together for Ergo and load it onto your Ledger.
Yeah. I'll have to find my Ledger. It's been a while.
Yeah, me too. But the dangerous with those little stick things, I got to be honest. I'm happy that the community is going to get Ledger. I like the cold wallet, the Android thing. It's a lot harder to lose your phone than a USB stick.
Yeah, that's all I've been using, to be honest. And I think going back to the Ledger itself, it might be a little bit fiddly because you've only got the two little buttons. Whereas if you signing on your phone and things. It's touch screen. It's big interface. You can see that the transaction details right in front of you, and it works seamlessly.
Yeah, those ledgers, in my opinion, are fiddly little things. My fingers are too big. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't like them, but I get the hardware security aspect of it. So I'm really happy that the community is going to get that.
Yes, most definitely. A little bit long awaited as well. There's been a couple of hiccups along the way, but we're finally there.
It's been a slog.
I think I actually purchased my ledger. I think it was about July last year.
I'm in the same boat.
In anticipation for it. So we're finally there. Almost.
Yeah. Well, we're getting into beta. That's big.
Yeah. So scalahub has had discussions with MHS Kushti about the new mixing protocol. Is it SigmaJoin? Is that what they've named it?
Yeah, SigmaJoin.
Yeah.
You know, the cool thing about SigmaJoin, I think it's going to be a major upgrade versus zero join. Okay. The longer term, what I think you'll see multiple interfaces in wallets that interact with the same mixing scheme.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm hoping that in time that opens the door to a lot more users providing liquidity. But, you know, the hidden gem there is you also have the potential to plug it into Rosen, to where you could create a scheme where I bridge from another chain into Ergo, and provided there's enough liquidity of whatever token I'm coming in with, I could, in theory, mix that and then have it returned to me through Rosen. And hopefully you get to the point where you can simply program that on a UI, hit a button, and then track it on chain.
It's crazy to think, isn't it?
Yeah, that's like non-custodial, non-interactive mixing cross-chain. That's huge.
That's a massive value add for the ecosystem.
Well, you know, that's one thing that Ergo has always had as one of its core principles is privacy.
Yeah. Optional privacy.
Optional privacy.
So with that, like you said, having to be able to provide the liquidity for that to occur, who would then do that? It's obviously those guys wanting to do that mix.
Well, I think the first thing that we need to look through, which isn't quite here yet, is going to be the documentation from Rosen. Yeah. I'm hoping that one of these dev updates, MHS will drop his longer term goal, the tokenomics of the Rosen token and how that incentivizes both the guardians and the watchers. Yep. And then we get into use cases and how we build liquidity on chain, because it is a really good question. We can build a bridge, right? Yep. But we have to put the incentives on the other side of the bridge. Yep. Otherwise, what's the point, right?
We're bridge to nowhere.
The bridge to nowhere concept. So, you know, we have to say, okay, well, what is the use case? What services can we offer that, you know, are unique or let's say would motivate a user to choose Ergo versus, you know, fill in the blank. Yeah. And that's something that, okay, yeah, we're building that into the ecosystem as it develops, but I do think we have some really unique tooling already to push people in that direction.
Yeah, definitely. And I think on the use case as well, having the mixing schemes integrated into wallets, it just breaks down that barrier entry that we were touching on before as well. People then can just kind of click a button and away they go.
Yeah, the mixer right now is a really powerful dApp. My favorite thing is that you download your own instance, you run it as, you know, your own operator. So it is very much like a Web3 style app where you are in control. Yeah. But you know, that level of let's just say hosting comes with a certain responsibility and skill set that a lot of people just don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, let's put it that simple. So as this can be hosted in other interfaces, yeah, it's going to get a lot more friendly.
Yeah. I actually had an instance running on a Pi not long ago. So yeah, it's good fun to play with.
It takes some time though, you know.
Yeah.
You gotta commit some time to set that up and play with it until you're familiar enough with it to actually, you know, mix a significant amount. And most people just don't have time for that.
Yeah. I remember my first sort of mix. I had everything set up and then double checked, triple checked, clicked the button. I'm like, oh, well, there goes that erg. Who knows where that's gone?
Uh-oh.
Off to the abyss, but it ended up returning. So yeah, more than happy with that.
Oh, nice.
Then also scalahub's working on the side chains with anetaBTC. So that'll be a nice one to, once that's all up and going, bridging to BTC. All right, our favorite name. You can have the favorite.
All right, Enthusiast. Looks like GetBlok is working on their UI. I did see on their social account that they released some photos of that, and it is looking good. It really reminded me of like a nice hash-ish, UI. So I think there's going to be a lot of. It just looked familiar, you know. If you have mind, it just looked like something you'd seen before. So I'm pretty happy with what they did there.
Yep.
Looks like they're also still working on their subpooling. I know that they're taking some of the re-emission work that Alex just spent months playing with and are playing around with building a vector to launch projects based on proof of work. I think that we'll probably see some more developer documentation in that from Alex in time, but he's, let's say, been busy and other things have been happening. So I'm sure he's dug in for a little bit.
Yeah.
Looks like they're also playing with Plasma, which looks like they're going to be using a scaling solution to provide proofs for everything that they document on chain, which is pretty awesome to see. I think that's probably long term, that's a really smart way to build a smart pool. Let's just say that.
And so basically all the payouts will be verifiable on chain and they're utilizing Plasma. Is that correct?
I think that's where they're headed.
Yeah.
And, and then instead of, it's kind of like, I don't know, you hear about proofs where you have multiple transactions compressed into a single proof and then verified on chain. Similar thing.
Yep.
So it looks like they're going to have a beta release in the next few weeks. That's huge.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I was just about to say, I've been trying to get the Dark Cave mining up and running with these guys, but they've sort of been getting all this sort of stuff sorted. And we're trying to aim for this weekend, but they're actually going to release their updated UI on Monday. So I'm not going to put too much pressure on them and get them to host a streaming service this week, maybe, and push it out to next week.
There's another thing there that I don't think they dropped in the update, but I've been kind of learning about, and that is their hosting services.
Yeah.
GetBlok, number one, you have the ability through their website to, let's say, pay a regular fee, and they essentially will kind of mine for you, or you have the ability to take your GPUs and ship it to them. That's insured and trackable, and they will run it, maintain it. And the benefit of that is their kilowatt cost is pretty low. I think relative to where I'm sitting, they're like more than 2 times cheaper than me. So the efficiency there can be huge. I mean, that's one thing that really can matter in mining. You can have the greatest rig in the world, but then you hook up to the grid and you're paying way too much.
Just choose away at your profitability.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge aspect of carrying costs in mining. So being that they're in a district with lower costs, I know they also utilize some green energy in what they do. That potentially can make miners a little bit more profitable. So that's kind of a cool thing to see.
Yeah, and most people don't really want to have the, I'd say, burden of running their own hardware as well, but they still want to contribute, and then they can just pay a small fee and get hosted services in a dedicated facility.
Yeah, for a lot of users, that's kind of, we're back to the mixer scenario, you know?
Yeah.
Personally, I love the small miners that are always tinkering around with things, and they're a huge asset to the ecosystem. Yeah. You know, it's amazing to watch, you know, small miners from all around the world teaching each other stuff and kind of forming their own little sub community.
Yeah,
it's one of the best parts of proof of work. I think that in and of itself is something that you just don't see in proof of stake as much.
Yeah, and these guys have spent, or guys and gals have spent, ludicrous amounts of money at times, and they're very proud of their rigs.
Yeah.
So on to ErgoDex and Ilya. We've had a little bit of a troublesome past with the Explorer, I would say. And that was proven again by the anetaBTC, Aneta Angels, was it? NFT drop that just happened?
It was the, Aneta Angels.
Aneta Angels, yeah. So, Ilya is working on a bit of a lightweight modification for that, for both dApps to be able to run local instances, but then also try and streamline things on the back end.
Yep.
And ErgoDex, so their closed round Cardano testnet has been sort of been running in parallel with everything that's happening on Ergo. The research teams are working on a protocol to allow off-chain operators to choose, choose off-chain operators on-chain. That's a bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah.
The front-end team is now back to new features in ErgoDex. Price charts are on the way. That's a big one for the community, I believe. And then also they've just released a new article, which was last night, my time, on their scaling solution. I've had a brief read on that. I need to digest it a little bit further.
Sure. I dove into it. I actually knew it was coming, so I was pretty happy to see.
You've had the jump start on me.
Yeah, I have had the jump start. I try to help by, really, if anybody's building in the ecosystem, they're doing open source stuff, I always try to help.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting stuff. You know, a backstory that you never really hear about Ilya is, he has been the main Explorer dev since Ergo launched, but he's also the guy that has been teaching exchange operators how to integrate Ergo.
Oh, right.
So, you know, looking at their scaling solution long term, I'm kind of wondering how much of that experience in terms of tinkering with the exchange backends has kind of led him to say, okay, well, how can we really take the concept of a decentralized exchange and take it to the next level?
Yeah.
And, you know, I think he's got a pretty good path to deliver something that's really unique. Unified layer 2 exchange that's, you know, on chain, but doesn't wrap tokens in our traditional way and doesn't require bridging in the traditional way. It's something that is high level.
It's next level, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a heavy lift, but you know, Ilya is kind of a machine, so I think that's within his lifting strength.
I find with Ilya as well, he's one of those people who, once you hear talk, you're just really engaged and you want to listen. He just has that sort of delivery, and you can tell how, like, his wit as well.
Yeah, he's great dev. I've always enjoyed working with him.
Yep. So do you want to elaborate a little bit on their scaling solution? They're running a separate chain, is that correct?
I'm going to leave that until their research comes out.
All right, no dramas. Well said. So low-key nerd with their Blitz trading card game. They've actually completed a 28-minute project overview, and that's going to be part of our ecosystem showcase, which is going to kick off in a couple of hours, I believe. Once this goes live, it would have already been out.
That's all right.
28-minute examples of video on what's actually happening on their side of things. They've just completed an art competition. So for artists to be able to submit their work and actually work on the Blitz TCG. They've actually onboarded a front-end dev, kicking off things on May 6. Then working with Marty as well on their pack-to-token solutions. I believe that's just having a trading card gap, which they'll be sort of distributing. So low-key nerd himself is turning into a back-end dev.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That tinkering gets dangerous.
Down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it is down the rabbit hole.
Also, some UA updates are being refined. And then they've actually created a YouTube channel. So if you want to dive into that link, it's just there, or we can provide it or jump into Discord as well and find it. So what's this one? Jay, the Ergo, you can have this one.
Sure. It looks like NIPoPoW has some updates to the front end. Looks like they have completed a video that's going to get a voiceover for the community. Also looks like they are about 75% complete with their Oracle scanner. They've started some integration into front-end wallet calls or the Ergo node. Looks like they're just chipping away at their project.
So me personally, I'm really excited about this, about having a decentralized casino and everyone sort of managing their own risk. You're either the house or the gambler or both.
Or both. And, I think it's also long-term one of the hidden use cases that may, come about. I know that in the past, they had actually talked about accepting other games from other developers and, plugging in some sort of developer feed. So, there's an incentive to build these things. But then I have to step back and ask the question, like, okay, let's say a group of developers get together. They have, an idea. They want to create some funding for an idea, or they want to create some funding for perhaps, or Ergo Lend or something, along that line, or Deco or something like that. What if Deco students spun up their own game that then, a portion of the rewards went and funded Deco? I mean, that'd be pretty cool. That it's a unique funding mechanism that also, if it's done right, you have transparency, which when it comes to casinos, who knows, especially online casinos.
What's he barking at?
The window, who knows?
Yeah, so like you said, the funding mechanisms, you could have, some people may not look too kindly to gambling, but then if it's some of the rewards are then transferred over into funding things on Ergo Lend, it's a win-win.
And let's be honest, you and me. If somebody is in crypto and they're against gambling, there seems to be some kind of like split there that I don't understand.
Most definitely.
It's a volatile industry. I think that we try to do things in an open and transparent way at Ergo, but we still are in, stormy seas in terms of, how markets move around and, how things react. So I don't know if there's going to be too many people that are like, well, I'm in the Ergo ecosystem, but I don't support gambling,
Exactly. I think everyone will be on board.
It's just manage your risks. We don't want to create a Gambler Anonymous DApp for Ergo. Just, risk what you can afford to walk away from.
Most definitely. Very well said. So little update from Agagaka. The funny one. Aggie. Was it Aggie? We'll call him Aggie. For people who may not have seen this, I think it's Son of a Text actually put out a little experiment to be able to see what ETH merge sort of happen, what will happen with ETH merge, and try and incentivize people to move their hash rate off for a day into sort of other tokens, hopefully Ergo included. And this is just a little bit of a warning, just giving us a heads up that we may see a little increase in hash rate on that day.
Yep. Then, that has some effects. If you get a bunch of people that hop onto Ergo, well, what's going to happen is they're going to work within a certain difficulty that's been set. And as that hash rate grows beyond the target, what's going to happen is people will start finding blocks faster.
Yep.
Now, why does that matter? Well, we do have some apps like the Auction House is a good example. Perhaps other ones where, you set contracts based on the block height.
Yep. And
so when you do that, you have a certain expectation that, the block height is going to be 2 minutes, right? Well, that's a floating target, right? And so when your hash rate adjusts, in this case up quite rapidly, we might see, blocks at a minute. And so, the time that somebody would expect something to take to execute may happen in half the time that they thought. So, it's one of the things about proof of work is that the actual ability to solve that puzzle is unknown. So, sometimes even with minimal hash rate, you get a quick block and a long block. And it's usually when you're typing your address in and you're worried, that's when you get the long block.
Yeah.
That's just how things work. I don't know why.
And that's the thing. It's just the protocol itself's aiming for a 2-minute block time on average over 24-hour period. I think that should be sort of noted as well. But then also the difficulty, once these potential miners who do jump on may move off as well, we might be left with a little bit of high difficulty for a period of time.
But that's a nice idea. It's nice to see miners hop onto other systems. Then, usually the first thing they're going to do is they're going to get a wallet, right?
Yep.
And so that's kind of like the entry into the ecosystem. And then usually, if it's a short-term thing, who knows? Maybe they'll mine a little bit and say, hey, I'm going to go play with, ErgoDex or play with something else in the ecosystem. And so, if they want to experiment with it, great.
By all means, jump in.
Yeah, the one thing you got to recognize is if you're coming off ETH, you do need to reconfigure your rig a little bit for auto Lycos too.
Yeah. So a little update now from Morphic. So Sigma 4.0.6 has just been released. So that's a little update for Ergo script.
Yep.
And that's it by the looks of things.
All right. Well, it was a pretty crazy week, that anetaBTC angel drop certainly. We already knew that coming into this year, right? We knew that we had two infrastructure weaknesses that we needed to address. The first of which was wallets. At that point, we had Yoroi, and that was just bottleneck, right? Let's call it that.
Just leave it there.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. And now here we are in May, and we have multiple competing wallets, all of which are much better than what we had a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
All of them are much better. The mobile wallets are pretty awesome, pretty easy. Browser wallets are looking much stronger. Ergo is, it's a great little build. It's one of those things that, okay, you do have to tinker, and, users don't always want to take the time to do that, but hopefully as they're in the ecosystem longer, they start to get curious and, fall into that rabbit hole and see where it takes them.
Off. I think that should be noted as well. That is a full node wallet. So I think incentivizing a lot more people to start running full nodes. Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah. And the second thing in our ecosystem that we really need to address this year is the Explorer. It's something that could be made more developer friendly. We certainly need to get more instances of the Explorer as we start to have dApps pop up, because depending on how it's designed and how things are cached on the dApp side, some dApps are, I'm just going to use the word abusive, right? To the Explorer in terms of, how much they're calling it. And ideally, dApps that get serious are going to have their own version of the Explorer that they host that is specific to their dApp. And that in and of itself would prevent scaling from being an issue in our current setup. But there are things we can do short term in the back end to prevent that from happening again. But longer term, I think we need to see an ecosystem with multiple Explorer builds, which is just good. I mean, that decentralizes the Explorer, helps the ecosystem function better. It's just better infrastructure. So that's something that we're going to start marching towards, and hopefully, looking at the community development from the wallets, it'll give people an idea of the type of improvements that they'll see as we address this.
Yeah, by all means. And we had a little bit of an update from on that back end side of things is in regards to GraphQL. I think it was last week. So what's that mean for the back end?
Sure. Basically, we're going to be adding Explorer build that has GraphQL call support. It's pretty well adopted standard. There's a lot of documentation out there. And so what does that do? Lowers the barrier of entry for developers. It's the same. I say that a lot, but as we take a step, that's a continual goal. How do we make this that the user experience is easier, both for the people interacting with the blockchain and new developers that are coming into our ecosystem that are curious and want to start tinkering and playing around with Ergo.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's something that I'll probably continue saying and continue pushing. And it's just probably the best thing the Ergo Foundation can do in terms of support beyond just the core aspect of the protocol.
Yeah, lowest barrier entry, attracts more users. There's that the fear factors sort of disappeared then, and people are more than happy to sort of interact with dApps, etc.
Yeah, and push for open source builds, and hopefully people do that. Try to get people to have good documentation, tutorials, education. And to be honest, our ecosystem has really done amazing supporting that. I don't see LadoPixel on here too often anymore talking about Ergo tutorials, that website, but that to me is one of the most valuable resources for someone new coming into the ecosystem, or perhaps even new to blockchain.
Yeah, by all means. And he's continuing to put those tutorials out as well.
Yeah, that's just been a huge benefit. So if you're out there, show up in the developer update. I like what you're doing.
By all means, do so. All right, let's wrap things up. It's been a pleasure again, mate.
Yeah.
So just a reminder as well, we've got Ergo Hack happening. So tune in and follow that. I think this video will go out on Sunday evening, and the Ergo Hack kicks off on Monday. So by all means, tune in.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one.
All right, guys, take care. Have a good one.
I think